By centering his birth name on his new album, Slowthai, or Tyron, hopes to reassure you that the mischief maker does indeed have a tender soul. It's up to you to decide whether you're still on board. From the sound of things, Ty has more than just boxers on this time around. If the frosty piano heartbeats from Mount Kimby on Feel Away will make you want to wear anything, it's a bundle of winter clothes. It's a far shot from the Slowthai that we were all introduced to a couple years back. Someone so hungry for chaos, to stir shit and serve it at the cafeteria, to wave middle fingers at the facetiousness of polite conservative Britain on his first album. Nothing great about Britain. On the nose, yes, but also on the hands, on the chest, on the couch, up the walls. That was 2019, but it's weird because the new album Tyron sounds more like actual debut material, which makes In Gab seem so much stranger in comparison, since that was the debut album instead. The scope was just so much larger. It was nuttier, fragmented, full of songs that are super catchy if you convince yourself for long enough that they are. Tyron sounds like it was made for the Brockhampton kids, specifically the ones who want Amir back. The beats are cartoonishly colourful, dotted with wacky vocal tricks, and they tear out the chest like couch stuffing to expose their angsty, sensitive hearts. Wah wah wah. No, I goof. I like Tyron, but tentatively as tentative as tentatives. And it's mainly because the pure-hearted Spectre is tainted right from the get-go thanks to this track. This one right here. In a world where you'd better be on your best behaviour, Slowthai adds to the conversation like a softball through a window, or a champagne glass at an audience member. I wince at the idea that Slowthai might potentially run his mouth about cancel culture on a song, but it's twice as embarrassing that he'd name the song Cancelled in big red letters and have it turn out to be clickbait. It's a decent song on its own terms. Skipper continues to be the man of hooks, and I'm not just talking his Candyman cosplay.
Now you're dripping blood.
But they weren't satisfied with just that, so they dressed the whole jamboree up with a buzzword that they couldn't even commit fully to talking about. Okay, so there's a bit about how there's no way that you could cancel because he's playing Glastonbury with a shit ton of awards on this shelf. The audacity is pretty brave, and no amount of acclaim nor fame has prevented a wealth of celebrities from being held accountable for shithouse behaviour. But the most embarrassing part to me is that Ty himself doesn't even say it. He gets Skepta to rap those lines for him. How non-committal is that? Gears himself up to talk some big shit, and doesn't even have the courage to shit big. It's worth saying that while this sours some of Tyron's introspection, it doesn't fuck up the album as a series of decent sounding songs. So no, it doesn't fix the central issue that Slowthai isn't as vivid a narrator this time around, but knowing how to sound good over beats is a pretty good CV qual, whether he's trying to sound cool in front of ASAP Rocky, or being more honest about his footy lad pastimes. We have Mazza showing off how much he loves Die Lit, the hook on Vex making me want to judo flip a shit ton of ninjas, and the hat-trick run from that to Dead being one of the most solid track runs I've heard in about 48 hours. The album also has a hilariously literal demonstration of the album going from hard banger half to introspective sensitive half, literally by hitting the caps lock key a second time. The album could not have made more for hullabaloo to say, hello, these are the personal songs now, but the braggadocio drops thankfully, and when Ty reflects on his upbringing, he's more sympathetic about describing where he came from, comes from, and where his brothers still are, instead of spending time ruminating on how well built he is now. It's backed by honey-sweet acoustic temptation from Deb Never on Push, and dusky vocal samples that ripple like lake water on Focus.
Slow dance with the devil, no chance, so I settle. No second chance, I just gotta be better, less of a...
Terms is a bit of a weird one. I think the best part of that track is Denzel Curry. The duality of Slowthai is actually best summed up in a lyric of the far more intense closing track, ADHD.
I got tendencies, touch me tenderly, heaven let me in.
However, the beauty of it all collapses like a shotgun marriage once it gets to NHS, the most sensitive track of all, or so Ty would like you to feel it as, if it weren't for him demonstrating how one thing cannot work without another, like Rick without Morty. Actual quote. There's also this real baffling line about needing to feel freedom. How? Either by breathing, or not squeezing your buttocks trying to hold your shit in. You can imagine that working on a cruder track from In Gab, but not on a wintry, fake-tiered song titled NHS. It's swiftly saved by the much more genuine feeling Feel Away, which I've already been listening to since late last year, and I put that down to how much momentum I feel when James Blake introduces himself.
I leave the dent in my car to remind me what I could have lost.
The makeup off it is selfless enough to make you briefly forget how good a PR move this sensitive half of the album is. Not that I think Ty's not pouring his heart out genuinely, but songs to remind us constantly of how sympathetic Slowthai truly is underneath all the troublemaking certainly would be top 3 decisions to kindle public respect. Tyron isn't actually the next best thing since Electric, but it's surprisingly palatable as a double album the length of a regular one, and holding back on the shit-grinned mischief. It's weird hearing Ty trying to be on his best behaviour. I'd rather hear him feel free, like when you stop squeezing your buttocks trying to hold your shit.